Many of you might have got one of these smaller drones for Christmas and might be thinking it's small enough to fly pretty much anywhere. Not true. Getting it wrong can be mightily costly, whether or not in the UK, EU, the USA or beyond. So a quick video today on avoiding some meaty fines with these smaller drones, and also a quick refresher on what you can and can't do with larger drones like this. Hello, I'm Ian and I play with drones, and yes, even these little guys have got rules that can result in thousands of pounds of fines if you get it wrong. Now, whilst it's easy to argue about the overregulation of these small drones, there are still instances where flying in the wrong place at the wrong time can have some real consequences, and if nothing else could cost you a few thousand. The rules apply even if you're flying in your own back garden, lower than the surrounding trees or buildings. And as I said, there are some heavy fines if you get it wrong. So here's a quick rundown of the main rules covering these smaller models under 250 grams, which at least do have far fewer restrictions on where you can fly, but still have some very clear rules on where you can't. If you've got a larger model over 250 grams like the Air 3S or the Mavic 3s and the like, then there's some other more draconian restrictions, unfortunately, and I'll put a little jump point in the video there so you can skip straight to that part of the video. So, small drones, and by that I mean small, under 250 grams with a camera. This includes drones like DJI Mini Series, DJI Mini 4, Mini 3 Pro and the like, the DJI Neo, and the soon to be released, if not already released by the time you watch this video, the DJI Flip. These models do have way more freedom to fly in the UK and the EU, but the main rules are pretty much as follows. 1. Registration. In the US, smaller models under 250 grams duck under the registration requirements, but not so in the EU and the UK, where even smaller models do need to be registered if they've got a camera. And that registration number needs to be displayed on the drone itself. To register in the UK, just search for drone registration on Google, and you should end up here at the CAA's drone registration site. Sadly, much like the rules, even the drone registration is not as simple as it could be. But the bottom line is, if your drone has got a camera, you need to register the drone. There are two types of registration. You've got the operator ID, and that is like the legal owner of the drone. It costs £11 and lasts just 1 year. The other type of registration is the flyer ID, and that is for the person actually flying the drone. It lasts 5 years and is free, but it needs you to pass a fairly simple and actually quite useful online test of 40 questions. So I always recommend doing the flyer ID as well, because you'll learn something useful and it doesn't actually cost you anything. Now, of course, for almost all of us, we are both the legal owner and also the flyer, so we will require both the operator ID and the flyer ID. But technically, if you have got a sub 250 gram model drone, you only need to actually get the operator ID and renew it each year. Flyer ID is not mandatory for these small drones, but as I said, it's very useful and it's free, so I do recommend you do it. And it does kind of show how messed up the whole system is, because as I said, the flyer ID is what actually teaches you the rules. The operator ID is just a simple registration and payment each year. That's it. Money-making exercise? I don't know, not for me to say. But as I said, do both, you'll fly better for it. If you've got the larger drones above 250 grams, then you haven't really got much choice. Both the flyer ID and the operator ID are mandatory. When you're done, remember to print off the operator ID and stick it to the outside of the drone or inside the battery compartment. Either is fine. You're also supposed to print off the flyer ID and keep it in your case or nearby when flying, so you can produce it if asked by someone in authority. So there we go. If you own more than one drone though, you only need to register once, and you put that same operator ID on all of your drones. If you're under 18, then you're going to need to get your parent to get the operator ID on your behalf, but you will need to do the flyer ID if you're getting one for a larger drone. EU countries are generally the same, but do search drone registration in your country to make sure, because a couple of countries have got some slightly different rules as well. And sadly, UK operator and flyer ID is not valid for flying in EU countries, and vice versa. EU operator IDs and flyer IDs are not valid in the UK. So if you are based in the UK and heading over to Europe, you will have to register again in one country, and then it's valid for all EU countries that base their rules on EASA. I often recommend Cyprus because their registration lasts for 3 years, but technically you are supposed to register in the first country you're going to be flying in. So, it's boring registration stuff done. Next, where can you actually fly? In the UK, a good read of the drone code will actually give you most of the information you need. They do actually have some decent diagrams and they explain most of the rules pretty clearly. So I'll do a link to that below. As I said, a useful little read. The little sub 250 grams drones do have the fewest restrictions and you can fly them in most places, but there are a few major points that you've got to know about. 1. Airports and airstrips. In the UK and the EU, it is illegal to fly a drone of any size within 5 kilometres or 3 miles of an airport. They've got a flight restriction zone that goes round them in a circle, and they also have an additional 5-kilometre runway extension. In the UK, there is no exemption for flying low or staying below trees or anything. You simply cannot fly any drone within 5 kilometres of an airport. Full stop. It's easy to see where these flight restriction zones exist. You can open the DJI Fly app and it will show you on the main map. In the UK, I actually recommend heading over to dronescene.co.uk for a simple interactive map that works on your computer, laptop or your phone's browser as well, so you can view it when you're out in the field. DroneScene will give you the clearest indication of where you can and can't fly, and also where others have flown before as well. It also shows you any temporary restrictions that might be in place for a specific event. So all round, it is a good source of information, and I've done a video on DroneScene that I will link to up there somewhere. Other hard and fast exclusion zones: City of London, west of Tower Bridge, blanket no-fly zone, especially the royal parks as well. All have got meaty fines if you are caught flying in them. Also, you cannot fly within 400 metres of prisons or correction centres. There's a chunky £2,500 fine waiting for you there if you do that. Nuclear power stations also have no-fly zones around them, and again, backed up with meaty fines as well. And finally, as a more general rule for small drones as well as large, you cannot fly over crowds of people. Now, this is sometimes something a bit of a confusion for people. How do you define a crowd? Well, the CAA define it as a gathering of people that is so crowded, people could not reasonably run out of the way of a falling drone. Beautifully specific, if not still a bit subjective, I think. Finally, in the US, I do know that pretty much most national parks have blanket bans with hefty fines for flying anywhere within them as well. So, that's pretty much where you can and can't legally fly, but my advice would always be very much to use a bit of common sense. Sadly, the press and the general public still get angry for no real reasons with drones. I always try and do my best to not annoy people for no reason. If it's a tourist attraction, then maybe wait until it's closed to get better results without people running around ruining your pictures. In the UK, landowners can prevent you from taking off and flying from their land, but they cannot stop you flying over their land if you are standing next to it but not on it. The CAA regulate airspace, not landowners. But do remember, of course, you have to keep your drone within visual line of sight and you can't fly for more than a few hundred metres. To be honest, if there are people around, then I don't know, choose a quieter spot and take off and get up high and quick so that you're not buzzing everybody on the ground. Speaking of height, in most countries around the world, UK, EU, USA, Australia, pretty much everywhere, the hard altitude limit is 400 feet or 120 metres above the ground. This is supposed to keep some clearance between you and manned aircraft that should not be flying generally lower than 500 feet. You'll see your height shown on your screen as you fly, but be aware that is the height above your takeoff point, not the actual ground beneath the drone. If you're on a steep hill, the height on your screen cannot tell you the full picture. You are legally allowed to fly uphill more than 120 metres above your takeoff point, as long as the drone is not more than 120 metres above the ground beneath it. If you are flying one of these smaller models, I can pretty much sum things up by saying, make sure you're not in any restricted areas, keep away from crowds of people, and don't fly too far or too high. In the UK and the EU, you can legally fly at night, but you still have to keep an eye on the drone in visual line of sight, which sometimes is actually made easy by seeing the lights on your drone and just knowing which are the front and back lights. One final point, if you're flying an FPV drone like the Neo or the Avata and the like, and you're using a set of FPV goggles, the rules state you have to have a spotter, another person right by your side, to keep an eye on the wider sky and make sure there are no hazards coming into play. Now again, I do find this rule a little bit over the top personally. If you are flying a drone near the ground level, then you might want to think, well, what other hazards are going to come into play? But of course, you don't want to hit anybody walking or cycling. I do know many FPV flyers don't always have a friend on hand, but as ever, use your common sense. The rules state you must have a spotter no matter what. Right, so that's about it for the small drones. If you're flying a larger drone, then yeah, as I said, you do have a few more restrictions, unfortunately. In the UK, you can only fly larger drones in open countryside, at least 150 metres from any residential, industrial, commercial or recreational area. So this includes areas with houses, shops, factories, ports, harbours and any recreational park. The CAA recently expanded their criteria to define a residential area, even if there was just only one single house there. And even if you are in open countryside, then you're supposed to keep at least 50 metres away from any person that is not connected with your flight. Now, many people get rightly annoyed at just how restrictive these rules are, especially as the UK pulled out of the EASA-based rules that had numeric grading of drones that would have let larger drones like the Air 3S and the Mavic 3 series with a special C1 or a C2 label fly in more congested areas as they can in the EU. And you do have to wonder why it's legally safe to fly an Air 3S in a town or city in Europe, but apparently so dangerous and restricted in the UK. So it is easy to see why many people just make informed decisions and fly where they believe it is safe to do so without putting anybody else at risk. And if that happens to be near an industrial estate or harbourside or a solitary house, then so be it. For me, my main consideration is whether other people will realistically be at any potential risk or will get annoyed by a drone. If it's a wide open space away from people and buildings and it's not in a no-fly zone, then I'll fly. In the UK, there is also the option of joining a recognised flying club, and then you can fly larger drones under a slightly different set of rules called Article 16 authorisation. This is a set of additional authorisations that is actually renewed each year, and it does allow a slightly less restrictive set of rules to apply to flying larger drones, as long as you follow certain additional rules, including like making a risk assessment before each flight. To be honest, it's not something I want to go into in this particular video because if you're in a flying club, you're going to know the additional rules and how they apply to you. So that's all I've got to say today. Hopefully I haven't bored you to death or put you off flying completely. To be honest, it is all about considering other people in the area and not being a dickhead, frankly. Keep high above people and obstacles, stay clear of people and buildings, and you should be fine. The same goes for the smaller drones as well. Keep other people in mind. And whilst personally I think your average family with young children makes way more noise than any little drone, don't give people a reason to hate drones even more. As said, I'll put a few more links below for more information, and if this has been useful, as ever, give me a little thumbs up, help the video along. Do drop your thoughts below. Let me know about what you think about the rules affecting our fun. Keep it nice and polite though and friendly. I know we can sometimes get a little bit worked up on this subject, but look, as I said, hopefully this has been helpful. Either way, until next time, have fun, happy flying.